West Kelowna's Fire Chief Jason Brolund. Chief, thanks for coming back this morning. I'm glad to see you.
Yeah, good morning, Heather. Thanks for having me.
Well, listen, you probably hoped that we wouldn't have many or any conversations this season, that things would be calm. But based on what we're hearing from the federal government, the forecast is for anything but, calling it catastrophic potentially. What's your first reaction to that forecast?
Well, we're watching it closely. We've watched closely over the winter with hope that, we would have a return to normal, higher snowpack and rain. But we haven't seen those things. We've had an abnormally dry winter. Our fire weather indices and conditions on the ground out there are as bad as when we left them in the fall. So I'm optimistic. Nobody wants rain more than me in this spring season, but we're also preparing in case that doesn't happen. Things are shaping up. It could be a challenging season.
Okay, let's break that down into two parts. What is making you optimistic?
Well, for us, the turning point is June. If we have a rainy season between now and then, we may return to a more normal fire season and something that gives us a bit of a reprieve. However, we can't change the weather. Therefore, our level of preparation and anticipation is as high as it's ever been.
Okay. So I'm wondering, what have you learned? What has changed in terms of how you are preparing and how you will approach this season potentially, Chief?
Well, we're doing work in at least three areas. The first is based on our lessons learned from last year. And one of the things we learned from last year is that it takes an army to deal with an incident like this. So we are working hard on relationships. Last year, we did have the success we had, although it was a gut-wrenching year. We had the success we had because of relationships, because multiple agencies could come together to deal with a really big problem. So over the winter, we've worked extremely hard on cementing those again. Even as recently as yesterday, we were meeting to talk about lessons learned and how we will approach the next fire season. Number two is our training and equipment. We have new equipment coming into our fire department. We have, I'm sure fire departments across our province looking at bringing equipment on. For us, it's a brand new truck that will allow us to penetrate deeper into the wildland-urban interface and be even more successful in facing these fires. And the third area is we're working with the public to get ready. The response to a wildfire is an all-hands-on-deck event, but so is getting ready for one. Government can do its part through wildfire mitigation, but the public also needs to look at things around their home in order to make it more resilient to wildfire. The program's called Fire Smart. They're very simple things that you can do around your home to make it more resilient to wildfire.
So can people go online and learn about that then, Chief, to get ready themselves on their individual properties for 2024?
Absolutely. Fire Smart isn't about, it's about taking small steps around your home to protect it. People can Google Fire Smart. They'll see simple things like moving the wood pile away from your home, cleaning your eaves, replacing that straw mat at your front door, moving junipers and cedar trees away from your home. These are all things that were proven last year to have caused ignition around homes, but also proven people who had done that work, their homes were saved because of it.
So with those three things then, the relationships, the new equipment, that new truck, and hopefully a new public awareness and personal response, do you feel then you're in as good a position as possible in terms of preparedness, or are there still vulnerabilities that are concerning you at this point?
Well, when responding to an incident of this scope and scale, we can really never have enough resources. We're working hard on how do we bring those resources together. But the other thing we're working on is training. How do we cement that experience and knowledge and lessons learned from last year into our response for next year? So that work will never stop. I have a feeling like we can never be prepared enough. There's always more that we can be doing. And as the conditions worsen, we're striving to continue in that direction.
That's interesting. That's exactly what the federal government was pledging yesterday, money for equipment and for further training. So obviously in response to that kind of a need. Can I go back to something? Because one of your most famous quotes from last summer, and I'm sure you remember it from that news conference, I think is worth replaying for us today, and then we'll talk about it on the other side. But here was a memory from last year.
It was a devastating night last night, probably one of the toughest of my career, the toughest of all of our firefighters' careers, likely. Is one of the most challenging nights of firefighting in our history. We fought hard last night to protect our community. We fought 100 years worth of fires, all in one night.
I remember that well. I'm sure you do too. It was the worst night when it jumped the lake, and I don't need to describe the situation to you. But you talked about that as being such a rare event. But it sounds like you're facing many more nights like that, with as severe a threat as ever. How do you feel about how your job is changing, and the new risks that you might be facing?
Well, it certainly takes me right back to that moment. It's goosebumps to listen to that, and I can still remember the way we were feeling then, which was exhausted from the fight that we were in. First responders are now on the front lines of a changing climate, and that's not the answer to that solution. Of course, when we're faced with it, we're going to do everything we can to put the fires out or deal with the floods that we may face, but we need to look at how do we stop these problems before they are in the hands of first responders. It's a two-pronged impact on our jobs. One, we have to be prepared and change our business to respond to them, but two, we push hard on prevention and being prepared in advance. We have to do both of those things at the same time. But the impact on the firefighters, first responders' mental health is also a major component. We spent a lot of time talking about it, and how do we take care of our first responders so that they can take care of business when need be.
Chief, I know you won't take this the wrong way, but I hope June brings what you're hoping for, and that we don't have a whole lot of conversations this summer. But if we do, I always appreciate your forthright nature and your comments. Thanks for the time today. Really appreciate it again.
Welcome.